I absolutely believed I was crazy, so much so that I went to the psychologist and sat there and looked at that woman in all seriousness and said, I think I'm crazy. I think I've completely lost my entire mind. That's how much I believed it. I started becoming paranoid. I started becoming anxious because I didn't believe my own reality. I didn't even believe my own memories. When he grabbed my throat and denied it, I was like, you know what, maybe my memory is off. That's how insane I felt.
She called me crazy every day. Especially when I would, when she got caught on certain things, like for instance the cheating or stealing money from me or whatever. If you would confront her with something that she did, she would go crazy, and she would, you know, call me crazy for thinking that.
He would call me a whore out of the blue or call me crazy, and when I responded and said like, why would you say something horrible like that? Then he would say like, I never said that. See, you're crazy? It's literally crazy making.
He would say something and then immediately take it back and say, I never said that. Grab my throat. I never grabbed your throat. You are so mean that you would ever make stuff like that up. What is wrong with you? That's what he did.
She had like, how do you say that? A monopoly on the truth. I don't know if that is the right way to say it. Like everything she would say would be the truth and the only truth. No matter what the topic would be about, if it was something on the news, her opinion was the truth. So there was no way of arguing with her. You couldn't. I mean, if you would be talking about politics or relationships with other people or the kind of music you like or which kind of games or films you like, her opinion was the truth.
Mostly he would keep me hostage, and he would keep me hostage for many hours. Sometimes he would do that for the whole night, and he would just keep me seated at a chair, and I wasn't allowed to get up or to walk away. And if I tried to walk away, he would grab my arms, push me again, and say like, if I said, oh, you're hurting me, he would say like, oh yeah, you're just doing that to yourself because you're trying to escape.
Yeah, he didn't just kind of push you, he pushed you up through the hall. He didn't just kind of kick you, he kicked you down. He didn't just, you know, he told you you were hard to love or you were unattractive. That's abuse. But it didn't feel like abuse until it just felt like I was being sensitive still. Until it was over, and then I was like, oh wait.
Unfortunately, most people don't recognize narcissistic abuse. And that's mainly because there's a lack of knowledge. So knowledge is very important to avoid it. Otherwise, not only partners, but also children and whole families can be negatively affected by it. It's one of the most dangerous forms of abuse, even if it doesn't give any bruises sometimes. Not always, but a lot of times you cannot find any physical abuse. So that's what's making it so difficult to recognize and to see, or even to understand when it happens to yourself.
When I found out I was allergic to gluten, I felt so much better after I stopped eating them. But he, instead of being happy that his girlfriend was feeling better, he was constantly, on a daily basis, telling me I looked horrible, that I was just making it up. He was saying like, yeah, it's all in your mind. You're not allergic to gluten. You're just crazy.
Psychopaths often try to convince a prey that he or she is crazy. And when they succeed in making someone doubt himself, they weaken that person immensely. Because doubt very quickly makes you lose your energy, makes you lose your self-confidence, and then they can more easily move you around, manipulate you, make you doubt yourself even more. This is how the prey is being destroyed. And an example of that we see in the films Gaslighting.
I came home and I put my keys on the table and went about my business, went back to that spot on the table, couldn't find my keys. I asked him where they were. He said he didn't know. I went to the house looking like crazy, returned to the living room, found my keys where I put them in the first place. And I remember saying, they weren't here a second ago, and he was like, I have no idea what you're talking about. Are you sure you're fine? You're acting kind of crazy.
Gaslighting, it's a process of rendering another person mentally ill. And that is, of course, the worst thing you can do to a person. Even physical wounds are never as bad as driving someone insane.
Most of this relationship I spent in a state of total confusion. Like, for instance, one time he hurt me physically really bad, so bad that I had bruises on my arms, and I was ready to get out of this relationship, and I sent him pictures of my bruises saying, this is not good. When I saw him the next day, I thought he was going to apologize. But when he came in, he had his wrist in bandage. I asked him if he had an accident at work or something, but he claimed that I had done that to him. I went over the past night again and again in my mind, and I was 100% sure I never even touched him. But then I could see his wrist in bandage, and it got me really confused. He told me I was crazy. He told me there was something wrong with my memory, and instead of doubting him and his manipulative tactics, I doubted myself. I had no idea what gaslighting was, and that he was just trying to stop me from going to the police. And even though deep down, I knew I hadn't done anything wrong, I felt guilty anyway, and I stayed in the relationship.
They isolate you from others so you can't test your truth, and when you can't test your truth, everything they say becomes the truth. And, that's why gaslighting works, because you can't, nudge your friend and be like, is this real or what? Because you won't have any friends anymore, because you are only invested in him. Every time you want to meet up with someone who isn't him, he'll have some kind of crisis, which makes you stay at home.
She was cheating on me, and not with one person, with a lot of people. So I got upset about that. I never touched her. I raised my voice. What is going on? And that got turned around into that I had an aggression problem, which then in the end resulted that I saw a psychologist for about a year that she found for me, that I had to drive up and down from my job every week for about 3 hours to see this psychologist that she picked for me to work on my aggression problem. And I went there every week for a whole year just to find out that there was nothing wrong with me.
He would tell a lie, and I didn't fall for it. And he got really, really angry with me because I didn't fall for it. And then he would just randomly break up with me because he said I wasn't worthy of him because I didn't trust him or whatever. And then after I presented him with the facts, of course, he would come crawling back and make it into a joke or something. But he would always turn tables. He would always twist the facts. Like, he would say things like, yeah, I was using him, for instance, while the facts were that he was staying in my house, not paying rent, not doing anything to participate, not even look for a house for himself. So yeah, he would, every time he felt like he was doing something that was imbalanced, he would just blame somebody else so he didn't have to take responsibility for it.
The narcissist doesn't want to feel certain feelings by himself. So that's why he's going to project it on somebody else. So the behavior is just totally turn around. Everything he does, he will put on you. If he tells you, and you have no clue what he's talking about, that you are financial, holding something back, you can be sure that he's going to do that.
Yeah, oh yeah, he would say stuff like, you're very hard to love. People have a hard time being around you. And I feel like he was just talking about himself. He knew that he was hard to be around. He knew he was hard to love. And he just projected all of that on me, Like saying I was very argumentative, knowing that he cannot be in a company without getting into an argument with people. And stuff like that. He would project all the things he knew he was doing wrong. And he felt probably kind of insecure about onto me, so he didn't have to deal with it himself. Then it was just my problem instead of his.
I discovered a pattern in when I was feeling very happy and very strong. Those were the moments when he started picking fights, belittling me, criticizing me, keeping me hostage for hours. And when I felt like completely broken and down, that's the moment where he switched like a button and all of a sudden was the sweetest and kindest man in the world, saying things like, "Oh, I see you're feeling so down, and I'm always there for you." And that exact moment is where the confusion started, because this happened so often that the same person who is trying to destroy you is giving you discomfort and saying all these nice things to you. And inside my mind, I just didn't know if, is he a good person? Is he a bad person? In the end, I was convincing myself, oh, but he's nice to me now, so maybe he's not that bad after all. And that's what kept me in this relationship.
She was perfect, Whenever I would go against whatever she had to say, she was, I guess, better with words or better with a kind of manipulation or something that she just put me in the corner, and she was right. Also in my view, although I was really sure that I'm not that kind of person. I would never cheat. I would never do those kind of things when I'm in a relationship. She hit something in me where I thought, well, maybe she's right. Maybe I am that kind of person. So it made me doubt about myself a lot. And this happened within the first couple of months, and it just grew stronger and stronger. And then, towards the end of the relationship, you just don't have any clue who you are anymore. At least in my case.
This relationship could not have existed had I not been that confused. There was no sense of self left. I remember I went to the bathroom at work a lot just to look at myself to see if I was there, because I felt like I wasn't there at all. Completely worthless. All I was an instrument for him in every way. I didn't feel like who I was mattered. I didn't feel adequate. I didn't feel like I was worth anything. Completely annihilated. I didn't feel like I existed even. It's very strange.
But the strange thing is, at the moment, I didn't really feel that as being abused. It was more like the feeling you get that there was something wrong with me. That I was a person that would look at other women or wouldn't treat her right, or she had a reason to feel like she did.
I think what you go through as a victim of narcissism is the closest thing to brainwashing. All CIA tactics aside, I think narcissists rely on you not relying on yourself. They need you to not take yourself seriously in that way. They need you to ignore everything, all the glaring red flags, all the unhealthy stuff. They need you to not pay attention to it. And the only way they can make you look over those things is by brainwashing the hell out of you. Nothing you think is real. Nothing exists without their permission.
It kept me thinking, like, would I ever, if somebody is like crying and saying, please stop what you're doing, like, would I ever want to continue what I'm doing if somebody is doing that? And I felt like I would just like feel so guilty. And that exact feeling, that was lacking in him. He never felt guilt, he never felt remorse, he never felt like, oh, I'm so sorry for making you cry, or I'm so sorry for making you feel so down. It was like he felt he had the right to abuse me and hurt me like that. And that was when I felt like something really important is lacking in this person. He didn't have empathy. I saw that he only had these type of feelings of empathy when it was about him, like when his feelings were hurt. So, for instance, when after he had abused me, I didn't want to see him for a while. And to him, that was really painful. So he didn't have like this action-reaction feeling. He would always leave out the action. So he would always leave out the abuse. Also in the stories that he would tell people, he would never tell about abuse. He would always tell about, oh, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, she doesn't want to see me anymore. And I think he didn't register. I think that's what empathy is. You register somebody else's pain or the hurt you cause in another person. He couldn't do that. He couldn't feel like, oh, this woman is crying and begging me to stop because I hurt her so much. I should stop now. He didn't have that.
You can't approach these people that have this thing like they are normal human beings, because you expect, if you're in a relationship with anybody, that there's a certain level of empathy and you know, and when that's not there, don't pretend to think that these people think the same way as you do. This is one thing that for me is like the core of this whole thing. That if you're in a relationship with somebody like that, because you have empathy, you think that the other person has that as well. And so when you think about the other person, you think with that perspective. But when that empathy is lacking, these people are programmed differently. So you can never have the thoughts that you have about what's normal. They don't have it, so don't project that on them.
Psychopaths lack conscience and empathy. That may also go for people with narcissistic personality disorder, but it may not apply in sufficient measure for some narcissists to be able to say that they are also psychopaths, and that they lack a foundation completely. As their foundation inside may be weakened, but it may not altogether be absent or insignificant. The percentage of people who have a personality disorder is estimated around 10% of the population. I estimate that around 5% of the population also has psychopathy.
She had a small son, and whenever there was something wrong with the son, I would be the one to take care of that. She wouldn't be able to relate to him, or so it was so blatant with her. She could see it so clearly that she missed that empathy, that she couldn't act like she did. So she would just full out say it, I don't give a shit about anything or anybody. So that's different than other people that have this. She didn't have those acting skills in that sense, no.
my ex was really good at acting. Whenever I was sick, he sounded so nice on the phone, saying that he would cook for me and take care of me. But when he came over, he expected me to be better, and he would be very annoyed if I wasn't. Even when I was puking or when I had fever, he would scream at me and wouldn't let me sleep all night. And this wasn't just one time. This happened so many times that whenever I got sick, I told him to stay away. Because he didn't only make me more sick, he also took away my son's mother. Because my ex, well, he would go home and he would sleep. But I had to take care of my son, being even more sick than I was before. And I think the problem with these people is that they are so good with this acting and coming off as empathetic that it takes a while to understand what's going on. Especially, well, in my case at least, when he was playing victim afterwards. I have stepped over a lot of my own feelings because he triggered my empathy towards him. But, well, of course, a person who has empathy doesn't do these things.